The great hall of the Andarian Empire glittered like frozen sunlight. Thousands of alien delegates sat on their crystal thrones, watching the small, quiet human standing in the center. His name was Dr. Ethan Reed, Earth's representative, a scientist chosen for the first human exchange mission to the Andarian world. He looked out of place among them. Where they shined in silver uniforms and glowing tattoos, Ethan wore a simple gray suit, wrinkled from the long journey. His hair was messy, his hands trembling slightly from the cold air. The Andarians found that amusing. Soft laughter began to spread through the hall. "Look at him," one of the alien girls whispered, her voice echoing with music-like tones. "He can't even stand straight," another added. "Humans still breathe oxygen directly. How primitive." Their laughter grew bright and sharp like shards of glass. The alien council members smiled politely, pretending to maintain order, but they too found it funny. The idea that such fragile creatures could represent an entire world seemed absurd to them. Ethan tried to speak, his voice steady but low. "Ladies and gentlemen, I come in peace. Humanity wishes to—" A group of alien girls sitting near the front interrupted him with giggles. One of them, tall and radiant with violet skin, said loudly, "Peace? Or are you here to beg for help, little Earthman?" The laughter returned, echoing across the marble walls. Ethan fell silent. For a moment he looked down at the ground, not out of shame, but thought. The translator device on his collar glowed faintly, trying to process the alien language mixed with laughter. When he looked up again, there was no anger in his eyes, only calm. "I may not understand your ways," he said softly, "but I know that laughter often hides fear." The hall went quiet for a heartbeat. The alien girls exchanged glances, confused. Then they laughed again, louder this time to drown the strange feeling that touched their hearts. After the meeting ended, the aliens returned to their floating cities, still laughing about the soft earth creature. But one of them, Lyra, the same violet-skinned woman who had mocked him, couldn't stop thinking about his calm eyes. She replayed his words in her mind. Laughter hides fear. It bothered her. What could a human possibly know about fear or emotion? Her people were engineered to control such things. They didn't feel sadness or love. To them, emotions were a weakness that evolution had erased long ago. And yet, when she looked at that human's face, she saw something alive. The next day, Ethan was brought to the energy core chamber of the city, a shining structure where alien engineers worked to repair a failing life crystal that powered an entire district. They said the system was collapsing. He asked permission to help. The alien technicians laughed again. "You, a human? This technology is 10,000 years ahead of your kind." But when they failed again, one of the counselors reluctantly allowed Ethan to try. Ethan walked up to the dying crystal. Its light was dim, pulsing weakly like a fading heartbeat. He placed his hand on it, and the hall filled with a strange sound, a deep hum that vibrated through the floor. The alien girls stepped back in shock. The crystal reacted instantly, glowing brighter and brighter, syncing with the rhythm of Ethan's heart. His body— "It's connecting to the core!" someone shouted. Lyra watched as light spread from Ethan's fingertips, flowing into the crystal veins. The system stabilized. The city's power returned. The engineer stared in silence. No machine, no alien had ever managed to repair the core like that. When Ethan finally stepped back, breathing hard, the crystal shined like a newborn star. He smiled faintly. "It just needed to feel life again," he said quietly. The alien technicians didn't understand what he meant, but Lyra did. For the first time in her life, she felt something warm move inside her chest, a heartbeat that wasn't hers. That night, whispers spread through the alien capital. The human saved the core. They say his touch awakened it. Could it be emotion? The same girls who had laughed at him now spoke his name with curiosity. Their laughter had turned into confusion. Some even dreamed, for the first time, of his face, his calm voice, and the strange warmth that came from his presence. Lyra stood on her balcony, staring at the stars. "Why does my heart race when I think of him?" she whispered. "It's impossible. Our kind doesn't feel, but deep inside, something ancient and forgotten had begun to stir within her. And somewhere, in the human quarters, Ethan sat by the window, writing in his journal, "They mocked us for our emotions. But maybe emotion is the one thing their perfection cannot survive. He closed the book and looked at the alien moon above. It shimmered like an eye, watching, waiting. The laughter that once echoed across the stars was now fading, replaced by something that no one in the galaxy could explain. Days had passed since the night Ethan repaired the alien life core. The entire Andarian capital buzzed with strange energy, not just from the crystal's restored light, but from something invisible that had started to spread among the people, especially among the women. Lyra woke before dawn, her chest heavy, her skin glowing faintly with soft golden patterns that had never appeared before. She pressed a trembling hand to her heart. It beat faster, like it was trying to match another rhythm far away. She didn't understand it. Andarians didn't have emotional hearts. Their blood was guided by control, not feeling. Yet now she felt warmth and fear. As she stared into her mirror, her reflection looked different. Her eyes were brighter, her breathing quicker. "What is happening to me?" she whispered. When she reported the symptoms to the Imperial medics, she found others already waiting. Dozens of alien women, most of them the same ones who had laughed at Ethan, described the same thing. Strange dreams, racing hearts, warm energy inside their chests. The medics exchanged nervous glances. "Impossible," one muttered. "Our kind cannot feel." But the tests showed the same pattern in all of them. Biological activity waking up in parts of their DNA that had been silent for centuries. Something had changed. Something had evolved. Later that day, Lyra went to the research chamber. Ethan was there, working quietly, surrounded by alien monitors and holographic data floating in the air. He looked exhausted but calm. When he saw her, he smiled politely. "You came back. I wasn't sure if anyone would." Lyra's voice trembled slightly. "Something is wrong with us. The women who were in the hall that day, we are all changing." Ethan stopped typing. "Changing how?" She hesitated. "Our energy levels are unstable. We feel emotions we never felt before. Dreams, warmth, and fear." Ethan stood up slowly. His human curiosity shone in his eyes. "May I see your readings?" She handed him the holopad. Ethan studied it for a long time. The alien code was complex, but his human brain saw patterns quickly. "It's your reproductive cells," he said quietly. "They're waking up." Lyra frowned. "That's not possible. Our kind doesn't reproduce naturally anymore. We create life in chambers, controlled by code." Ethan nodded. "Yes, but it seems something inside you remembered what it means to be alive. The connection you felt when I touched the core. Maybe it wasn't just the machine reacting. Maybe it was your body, remembering how to feel." Lyra's breath caught. "You think you caused this?" Ethan looked away. "Maybe not me. Maybe something inside humans. Something we call empathy. It connects us to life around us. Maybe that's what your people lost long ago." She stared at him, confused yet drawn in. "Empathy?" "It means," he explained softly, "to feel what others feel. To share pain. To care." Lyra repeated the word slowly, as if tasting it for the first time. Empathy. That night, rumors began to swirl through the city like wind through glass towers. The human is changing them. They feel emotions because of him. He's dangerous. Some women feared it. Others secretly wanted to feel it too. For the first time in generations, Andarian women were dreaming. They saw colors they never noticed before. They laughed and cried, emotions they never even knew they could experience. One night, Lyra found herself standing outside Ethan's quarters again. She didn't know why. Her body simply moved there. When he opened the door, she froze. "I didn't mean to disturb you," she said quickly. "You didn't," he replied gently. "Couldn't sleep?" She shook her head. "I keep hearing." "Your heartbeat," Ethan blinked. "My heartbeat?" Lyra touched her chest. "It matches mine." The human scientist felt a chill. "That's impossible." She stepped closer. The air between them shimmered faintly, as if charged with invisible light. Their heartbeats aligned, soft and synchronized. The alien girl closed her eyes, whispering, "I can feel it inside my veins. It's like my body listens to you." Ethan's voice grew quiet. "Maybe this connection is nature's way of reminding your kind. You were never meant to live without emotion." For a long moment, they stood in silence, the rhythm of their hearts echoing through the room. Then Lyra stepped back, frightened by what she was feeling. If the council finds out, they'll destroy you. Ethan sighed. Maybe, but what they fear isn't me. It's change. The next morning, the Imperial Council gathered in secret. Holoscreens flickered as reports came in. Hundreds of female citizens now showed biological activation. Entire sectors were filled with emotional unrest. The High Chancellor hissed, "This human contaminates our purity. He must be contained." Lyra stood among them, hiding her shaking hands. She wanted to speak but couldn't. The Chancellor continued, "His influence spreads like disease. If left unchecked, it will destroy the order of our people." But deep inside, Lyra knew it wasn't destruction. It was awakening. When the council adjourned, she rushed to Ethan's lab. "They plan to remove you from the planet," she said breathlessly. Ethan didn't look surprised. "I guess they would. What will you do?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "Keep teaching them what it means to be alive." Lyra's voice softened. "You don't understand, Ethan. You've changed us." "You've changed me." He looked into her eyes. "Then maybe it's not just science anymore. Maybe it's destiny." That night, thunder rolled across the alien skies, strange and rare on their world. Lightning illuminated the glass towers as Lyra watched from her balcony, her heart racing again. Her mind told her to fear, but her soul whispered something else. For the first time, she felt truly alive. And far below in the human research quarters, Ethan stared at the same storm and whispered to himself, "They mocked us once, but now even their hearts beat like ours." The strange connection between man and alien woman had begun, and soon it would shake the very foundation of the galaxy. The Andarian capital no longer felt calm. What had once been a perfect city of silence and control now hummed with whispers. Whispers about the human and the women who could no longer hide what was happening inside them. Lyra couldn't sleep. The warmth in her chest had turned stronger. Sometimes it pulsed so deeply she had to stop and breathe. She wasn't the only one. All around the city, alien women were reporting the same strange transformation, and in the middle of it all stood Dr. Ethan Reed, the human they once mocked. Ethan sat alone in his lab, surrounded by glowing monitors. His fingers typed quickly, comparing data from hundreds of medical readings. He had seen the signs: hormone spikes, cell activity, neural pattern growth. All of it pointed to one impossible conclusion. The Andarian females weren't sick. They were awakening. A quiet knock came from the door. Ethan turned. Lyra entered, her usually calm face pale and trembling. "Ethan, you need to see this." She handed him a hollow tablet. It showed a biological scan, hers. Ethan stared at it for a long time. Then his eyes widened. "No, this can't be right," Lyra frowned. "What does it say?" He swallowed hard. "Your body is producing new life cells. Real ones, natural, you're fertile." The room went silent. The hum of the machines felt louder than ever. Lyra took a step back. "That's impossible. Our kind lost that ability thousands of years ago." Ethan looked at her seriously. "Maybe not lost and just forgotten. Maybe your DNA needed something to remind it what living truly means." Lyra's voice shook. "And you think that something is you?" He sighed. "Not me, Lyra. Humanity, emotion, connection. It's not a virus. It's nature trying to repair what your perfection destroyed." Over the next few days, Ethan secretly ran more tests. The results were the same for every affected woman. Their bodies were regenerating ancient reproductive code. The more time they spent near humans, the faster the activation grew. But the council had also discovered this. And they were terrified. To them, reproduction without control meant chaos. Unplanned births, emotional bonds, families, all things they had erased long ago in their quest for order. High Chancellor Virith called an emergency meeting. The vast chamber filled with cold blue light as the leaders appeared in shimmering holograms. "This must be stopped," Virith thundered. "The human has infected our kind with biological corruption." An elder scientist protested softly. "But the readings show no harm. Only restoration." "Restoration?" Virith hissed. "We designed our race to be perfect. Emotion and birth are weaknesses. We will not go backward." The vote was swift. Ethan Reed was declared a contaminant, to be captured and removed from the Empire immediately. When Lyra heard the news, her pulse quickened. She rushed to Ethan's quarters. The guards were already on their way. "Ethan, they're coming," she cried. He didn't panic. He simply looked at her and said, Then we finally know what they're afraid of. They'll kill you. Maybe, he said quietly. But they can't kill what's already been born inside them. Lyra grabbed his hand. For a brief moment, the air between them shimmered again. The heartbeat connection pulsed through both of them, stronger than before. She whispered, "If they destroy you, they destroy our only chance to survive." Ethan stared at her. "Our?" Lyra hesitated, then placed his hand on her stomach. The warmth beneath his palm made him freeze. "Lyra," he whispered, "you're pregnant." Her eyes filled with tears, real tears shining like liquid light. I didn't believe it until now, but it's true. I can feel it growing inside me. Ethan's mind raced. This wasn't just biology. This was history changing before his eyes. "We have to leave," he said urgently. "If they find out, they'll destroy the child." Lyra nodded, her voice trembling. "They already know. The sensors will detect it soon." The sound of alarms suddenly echoed through the corridors. Guards in silver armor stormed into the complex. Ethan grabbed Lyra's hand and ran. The lab's doors slammed shut behind them. Drones hovered overhead, their scanners pulsing red. Ethan shouted, "This way!" and led her through maintenance tunnels beneath the city. Lyra's breath came fast. The glowing lines on her skin now pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat, and the faint heartbeat inside her. "They'll chase us to the ends of the stars," she said. "Then we'll make them chase hope," Ethan replied. Hours later, they reached the outer edge of the city. Beyond the shimmering walls lay the barren plains, forbidden to all citizens. Ethan pulled open a service hatch leading to an old human cargo ship, left from the first contact days. As they climbed inside, Lyra turned back for one last look. The grand towers of her world sparkled under the twin suns, cold, beautiful, and heartless. "I used to think the city was everything," she whispered. "Now it feels like a cage." Ethan touched her shoulder gently. "Sometimes it takes love to make even a perfect world feel wrong." She looked at him, her voice soft. "Is that what this is, Ethan?" "Love?" He hesitated, then nodded. "It's what makes life worth saving." Back in the capital, chaos had begun to spread. The other women who felt the same connection now cried out in fear as soldiers took them away for purification. But the truth couldn't be hidden anymore. Every scan showed the same result. Dozens of women were pregnant. The empire, built on logic and control, now faced the one thing it could never understand: life born from emotion. As the ship carrying Ethan and Lyra disappeared into the horizon, the council's chambers filled with panic. "They are spreading it," the chancellor screamed. "This human disease will destroy us." But an old scientist whispered under his breath, "No, it will save us." In the silence of space, Lyra rested her head on Ethan's shoulder. Her heart beat softly against his. For the first time in centuries, the Andarian race carried within them the sound of new life, a heartbeat that came from both alien and human blood. And it all began because one man refused to believe that feelings were weakness. The discovery had been made, and nothing in the universe would ever be the same again. The twin suns of Andaria rose cold and bright over the silver towers. For the first time in centuries, the Empire was afraid. The Council's perfect order had been shattered. Reports poured in from every district. More and more women showing strange biological changes, faint heartbeats inside their bodies, and emotions they could no longer suppress. And every report had one thing in common: contact with the human. The High Chancellor slammed his hand against the glass table. "This infection must end. Hunt the human and the traitor who shelters him. No one rests until they are found." The command spread like wildfire through the military network. Drones took flight. Soldiers in shining armor filled the streets. The search for Dr. Ethan Reed had begun. Far from the capital, hidden inside a canyon of black stone, a small cargo ship lay half buried beneath the rocks. Smoke rose from its engines, damaged but alive. Inside, Ethan worked quietly, fixing the ship's power core with what few tools he had. Beside him, Lyra sat with her eyes closed, both hands over her abdomen. Her skin glowed faintly, the same warm light as the stars outside. "How are you feeling?" Ethan asked softly. Lyra smiled weakly. "Strange. My body is changing every hour. I can feel life moving." Ethan's gaze softened. "You're strong. We'll keep you safe." She looked up at him. "No, Ethan. We will keep each other safe." For a long moment, the only sound was the hum of the broken ship. Then Lyra whispered, "You don't understand how dangerous this is. The Council will burn entire cities to erase what I carry." Ethan wiped sweat from his brow. "Then we'll make sure they can't find us." But deep down, he knew they already were. In the skies above, hundreds of drones swept through the desert, scanning for human life signatures. They were ruthless, precise machines built for war. Inside one of the command ships, a general gave orders. "Deploy capture units to Zone 7. The human ship was detected there 2 hours ago." "Alive?" a soldier asked. The general's voice was cold. "Preferably, but the female is expendable." Night fell. A dust storm rolled over the canyon, covering everything in orange mist. Ethan used the storm as a shield. He and Lyra left the ship and climbed to a narrow ridge overlooking the valley. "We can't stay here," he said. "They'll trace the ship soon." Lyra nodded. "I know a place. Old ruins from before our empire. They're deep under the mountains. The scanners can't see through them." Ethan smiled faintly. "Then that's where we go." As they prepared to leave, Lyra suddenly froze. "Do you hear that?" Ethan listened. A faint mechanical hum grew louder and louder. He looked to the horizon. Dozens of small lights appeared through the dust storm and drones. "They found us," he whispered. Lasers cut through the air as the first wave of drones descended. Ethan pulled Lyra behind a rock, shielding her with his body. "Stay down." The ground exploded beside them. He grabbed a pulse rifle from the wreckage and fired. One drone burst into sparks, another spun out of control. Lyra raised her hands. Her skin began to glow brighter, her veins pulsing with strange golden light. The air around her shimmered like heat. With a sharp cry, a wave of energy burst from her body, knocking several drones from the sky. Ethan stared in awe. "Lyra, how did you—" "I don't know," she gasped. "It just happened." Her power pulsed again, wild and uncontrollable. The storm seemed to bend around her, the dust glowing like fireflies in the air. They ran toward the mountains, chased by drones. Every few steps, Lyra's light flared, deflecting another attack. But the effort drained her. She stumbled, falling to her knees. Ethan lifted her in his arms. "Hold on, we're almost there." Behind them, explosions lit up the canyon like a dying sun. Hours later, silence returned. Ethan and Lyra reached the entrance to the old ruins, massive stone arches carved with ancient symbols. The place felt alive, humming faintly as if the mountain itself recognized her. "This is it," she whispered. "This place was from before the council, before we became cold." Inside, the walls glowed with old energy. Ethan set her down carefully. "We'll rest here. You need to recover." Lyra leaned against him, her breathing steady. "They'll come again, Ethan. They won't stop," he nodded. "Then maybe it's time we stop running." She looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" Ethan's eyes hardened with determination. "If your people are afraid of change, we'll give them a reason to embrace it. We'll show them what humanity really means." Far away in the capital, chaos was growing. The captured women were refusing to obey orders. The soldiers noticed something terrifying. Their weapons malfunctioned near the pregnant ones. Energy systems flickered. Machines broke down. The High Chancellor screamed, What's happening?" A frightened guard replied, "It's spreading, sir. Their bodies are interfering with our technology. Then destroy them." But even as he spoke, his reflection in the glass wall flickered, and for the first time in his life, his own heart skipped a beat. Back in the ruins, Ethan sat beside Lyra as she slept. He looked at her glowing skin, the life beneath it, and whispered, "They called us weak because we feel, but feeling is what keeps the universe alive." He turned on a small communicator and sent a message across hidden channels. "This is Dr. Ethan Reed. To any human colonies receiving this, Andaria has fallen into chaos. Their people are changing. Don't attack them, help them. They're not enemies anymore." He looked out toward the night sky where thousands of drones still searched the planet. "The hunt has begun," he murmured. "But they're not the only ones hunting. Hope is too." Lyra stirred in her sleep, her hand resting over her heart. The faint echo of 2 heartbeats filled the ruins. One human, one alien, both beating as one, and beyond the mountains, the stars themselves seemed to pulse in time with them. The ancient ruins lay quiet under the silver moonlight. The dust had settled, but the air still vibrated with something powerful, something new. Deep inside the stone chambers, Lyra lay resting on a makeshift bed. Her glowing skin flickered softly like firelight, her breathing deep and steady. Beside her, Ethan worked silently, adjusting the small monitor he had built from scraps. Lines of alien and human data ran across the screen. 2 heartbeats, one steady and strong, the other tiny, fragile but alive. He smiled faintly. "You're really here," he whispered, staring at the signal. "The first hybrid life in the galaxy." Lyra's eyes opened slowly. "Is it healthy?" Ethan nodded. "Perfect. Strong heartbeat. You did it, Lyra. You're giving life to something both human and Undarian." A tear rolled down her cheek. "Our people will never believe it." He touched her hand gently. "Then we'll make them see it." Far above, the Undarian capital was in chaos. The council's commands no longer brought obedience. Soldiers hesitated. Civilians whispered. The women who carried the change were glowing now, their bodies resonating with strange warmth that disrupted the machines around them. And in every corner of the city, the same rumor spread like wildfire. "The human's child is alive." The High Chancellor slammed his fists against the console. "No one must see that creature. It threatens everything we are." But the rebellion had already begun. Female officers refused to obey the sterilization orders. Entire medical sectors turned off their scanners. The old empire was cracking from within. Back in the ruins, Lyra stood for the first time in days. Her body was fragile, but her eyes were steady. "I can feel it growing stronger," she said softly. "It's like it wants to be seen." Ethan looked up from his datapad. "Lyra, we need to hide longer. If the council finds you," she interrupted, shaking her head. "No, hiding won't save us anymore. The others need hope. They need to see that life can be born again." Her voice carried a new strength, one that even Ethan hadn't heard before. "You taught me what emotion means, Ethan. Now I'll teach them what it creates." Before dawn, they prepared an old broadcast beacon found deep within the ruins, technology from a forgotten age when Undarians still believed in dreams. Ethan modified it with human coding, linking it to the galactic communication grid. "This signal will reach every world in the system," he said. Lyra stepped forward. Her hands glowed as she touched the crystal core. "Then let them see." A beam of light shot into the sky, piercing the atmosphere. Across the empire, every holographic screen, every drone, every palace wall flickered, then filled with her image. The people gasped as they saw Lyra, standing tall, radiant, her silver eyes filled with emotion. "My name is Lyra of the Undarian line," she began, her voice echoing across the stars. "Our leaders told us that emotion was weakness, that we were perfect because we could not feel, but perfection has made us hollow, empty, dead." She placed her hand on her stomach, glowing softly. "Inside me grows something new, a child born not from code but from love. Its heartbeat is both Undarian and human. It is proof that life can still find a way to feel." The galaxy froze. No one spoke. Even the soldiers watching the transmission lowered their weapons. Ethan stood beside her in the broadcast. "You laughed at humanity once," he said calmly, "but now you carry its greatest gift, compassion. Don't destroy it out of fear. Protect it. Let it grow." The screen faded to black. In the council chambers, panic erupted. "She exposed herself," shouted the Chancellor. "Track the signal and erase them both." But even as they tried, their systems failed. The power grids flickered. The drones crashed. The very heart of the Empire, its energy network, was now connected to the same bioresonance as Lyra's pulse. Her heartbeat interfered with their technology, spreading through the grid like a living rhythm. Within hours, every power station in the capital began to hum with the same pattern. The machines of the Undarian Empire were no longer obeying commands, they were feeling. The Chancellor screamed, "We are losing control." And somewhere deep in his chest, his own heart, long dormant, artificially controlled, beat wildly for the first time in centuries. Back in the ruins, Lyra collapsed to her knees as the connection spread through her body. Ethan rushed to her side. "Lyra, what's happening?" She gasped, gripping his arm. "It's not pain. It's life. The city, the people, I can feel them. They're waking up." Through her tears, she smiled. "Ethan, they can hear it. The heartbeat, they can all hear it." At that very moment across the Empire, alien women stopped in their tracks. Scientists, guards, merchants, all of them felt a soft echo inside their chests. A beat that wasn't their own. For the first time in their lives they cried. And when they looked up at the stars, they whispered one word they had never spoken before. Human. Hours later, the Empire stood still. No more orders came from the council. No more laughter. Only silence broken by the rhythmic pulse of something new, hope. In the ruins, Ethan sat beside Lyra, who slept peacefully, her hand resting over her stomach. The golden light beneath her skin shimmered softly, pulsing with 2 steady beats. He whispered, "You did it, Lyra. You showed them that life isn't about control, it's about connection." Outside, the wind carried faint echoes of a heartbeat across the desert, spreading from one world to another, and on the farthest edges of space, alien mothers whispered the ancient human word that had once been forgotten. Love. The galaxy held its breath. Lyra's message had spread faster than light. Every world under the Andarian banner had seen her face, glowing with warmth, alive with emotion, and heard the heartbeat of the impossible child inside her. For some, it was hope. For others, it was horror. In the capital, the once perfect city burned with confusion. Soldiers refused to fire on civilians. Civilians shouted for freedom. The council tower, which had ruled for 1,000 years, now trembled under the weight of fear and faith. The High Chancellor's voice echoed across the chamber. "Find her. Find the abomination she carries. If this spreads, the Empire dies." But another voice rose from the council floor. Minister Kale, one of the few who had always doubted the council's cruelty. "Maybe the Empire needs to die," Kale said. "Maybe what we built wasn't life, it was a cage." The Chancellor's eyes burned. "Then you are no longer Andarian." Kale bowed slightly. "Then I'll be human." Guards moved instantly. The chamber erupted into chaos. Far away in the ruins, Ethan and Lara listened to the chaos through the ship's cracked receiver. Static filled the air, but voices still broke through. Soldiers arguing, council orders being ignored, cities rebelling. Lyra placed a trembling hand over her stomach. "They're killing each other because of me." Ethan shook his head. "Not because of you, because they're afraid of change. You showed them something they can't unsee." Lyra smiled weakly. "You sound like one of our philosophers." He chuckled softly. "No, just a man who learned what fear can do to people." Suddenly, the ship's sensors beeped. Multiple life signs, and moving fast, Ethan's smile vanished. "They've found us again." Outside the ruins, a fleet of drones and hovercrafts surrounded the canyon. Soldiers poured out, armored, cold, silent, but this time they weren't all on the same side. Half of them bore the sigil of the council guard, the other half carried blue armbands. The rebellion. Among them was Minister Kale, his voice booming over the comlink. "Stand down," he shouted. "The woman is under protection. Her child is proof that we can live again." The Chancellor's voice answered through the command channel, sharp and furious. "You're protecting corruption. That hybrid will destroy our species," Kale replied. "Or save it." Then the skies exploded. The first missiles hit the cliffs, shaking the ground. Ethan grabbed Lyra and pulled her behind the stone pillars as dust rained down around them. "They're fighting each other," he said. Lyra's breathing grew faster. "They're not fighting for power anymore. They're fighting for the child." Outside, lasers burned through the air. The mountain valley became a storm of light and thunder. Rebels fought to protect the ruins while drones rained plasma from above. Ethan shouted over the noise. "We have to get you out of here." Lyra shook her head. "No, if we run, this war never ends. They need to see what they're fighting for." She stepped out from behind the stone wall. Her skin glowed again, stronger this time, golden light spilling from her hands. Ethan reached for her. "Lara, wait!" But it was too late. Her voice rang out across the battlefield, calm but powerful. "Stop this. I carry life, not death." The soldiers froze. The light from her body spread outward in ripples, washing over the valley like waves of warmth. Wherever the glow touched, weapons powered down, drones shut off, and hearts began to race faster. Ethan stepped beside her, holding her hand. Together they stood as the light grew brighter, wrapping them both like a shield. Rebel soldiers fell to their knees. Even some of the enemy guards dropped their weapons, overwhelmed by the feeling. Emotions they had never known flooding their minds, compassion, sorrow, love. But the Chancellor, watching from his command ship above, screamed into his mic.
Fire! Fire!
A single beam of energy cut through the sky, a weapon meant for destroying warships. It hit the valley with blinding light. When the dust cleared, the ruins were shattered. The broadcast beacon lay in pieces. For a moment, everything was silent. Then, through the smoke, Lyra rose, her body covered in glowing light, her hands trembling but still holding Ethan's. The beam hadn't killed them. It had awakened something else inside her. The air shimmered as energy spiraled around them, forming a luminous sphere. Lyra's voice echoed softly, not in sound, but in every mind within miles. You can't kill life. You can't kill love. And then the energy burst outward like a silent supernova. Ships lost control. Engines failed. Soldiers screamed as their armor powered down. But no one died. The energy wasn't destruction, and it was release. Every heart that felt it beat faster, sinking to the same rhythm, her child's heartbeat. Hours later, the battlefield lay quiet. Smoke drifted through the dawn light. The war had stopped, not by victory but by awakening. Kyle stood among the ruins, staring in awe. They're gone, he whispered. But they did it. From the horizon, a soft golden glow rose into the sky, a trail of light leading toward the stars. The scanners showed a small craft leaving the planet, moving faster than any Andarian ship ever had. Inside that ship sat Ethan and Lyra, hand in hand, her head resting on his shoulder. The child within her pulsed with gentle warmth. They'll come after us again, Ethan said quietly. Lyra smiled. Then let them come. Maybe this time they'll come to learn. He looked at her, his voice full of wonder. We started a war, she shook her head. No, we ended one. The war between heart and reason. The stars stretched out before them, endless, waiting. And as their ship vanished into the dark, the heartbeat of the child echoed softly through the stars, carried on waves of light. It was the sound of two worlds finally becoming one. 20 years had passed since the day the skies burned above Andaria. The empire that once ruled through logic and control was gone, replaced by a world reborn through feeling, empathy, and hope. The old council tower stood as a memorial now. The glass walls were cracked but covered in flowers, glowing softly in the night. Children played beneath it, children with human eyes and Andarian skin. They were called the hybrids, the first generation born from the impossible. And at the heart of the capital stood a tall monument of light, two figures carved from crystal, holding hands under the twin suns, Ethan Reed and Lyra of the Andarian line. But the story wasn't over. Above the city, a single starship descended quietly, old, worn, and silver gray. The docking gates opened, and out stepped a young woman wrapped in a cloak of white and silver. Her eyes glowed like starlight, her skin faintly golden. The guards lowered their weapons as if drawn to her presence. She smiled softly. I am Alara, daughter of Lyra and Ethan Reed. A murmur spread through the crowd like wind through fire. The child of the human and the alien had returned. Inside the new council hall, leaders gathered quickly. The chancellor's seat was empty now, replaced by a circle of elected voices. Minister Kale, now gray-haired but calm, rose to meet her. You stand in the city your parents changed forever, he said gently. The world that once hunted them now worships their names. Ilara lowered her hood. Worship is not what they wanted, she said. They wanted peace and understanding. Kyle nodded. And you will have it. This world belongs to you as much as it belongs to us. But Ilara's face darkened. No, peace is never permanent. I came because something is coming. Something that threatens both our kinds. The room fell silent. She looked out the window toward the stars. My mother felt it before she died. A signal, old, dark, mechanical. It wasn't from Andaria. It wasn't from Earth. It was from something older. Kale frowned. An attack? Ilara nodded. A machine race, one that sees life as weakness. They are coming for this system. That night she walked alone through the glowing streets. The air smelled of rain, the twin moons casting pale light on the river. She stopped before her parents' monument, placing her hand over the crystal forms. My father always said emotion was power, she whispered. Maybe it's time to prove him right. Behind her, hundreds of citizens gathered silently. Hybrids, humans, Andarians, all listening. She turned to face them. Once your ancestors laughed at humanity. You called them weak because they felt. But it was feeling that saved you. It was love that gave you life again. And now that same love will defend us all. Her voice carried across the city, broadcast through every channel, every ship, every home. We will not fight as machines do. We will fight as beings who care. Because that is what they can never destroy. The crowd erupted in cheers. The old anthem of the Andarian Empire was gone, replaced by a new chant that echoed across the world. For Lyra. For humanity. For life. Days later, when the dark machines appeared beyond the outer moons, the United Fleet waited, human cruisers beside Andarian crystal ships, hybrids at the helm of both. Alara stood on the command deck, the stars burning around her. "Transmit my signal," she ordered. Her voice filled the comms network, calm and powerful. "This is Alara Reed of Earth and Andaria. You see us as fragile. You think emotion makes us weak. You are wrong." As the first wave of enemy drones descended, she closed her eyes and pressed her hand against the ship's heart, a glowing sphere pulsing like a living thing. "Mother," she whispered, "guide me." The sphere answered. The entire fleet lit up in golden light. Energy rippled through space, and not from weapons, but from life. When the mechanical swarm fired, their blasts dissolved in mid-air, absorbed by the pulse of Alara's ship. The hybrid energy field grew, spreading across space like a sunrise. Every ship that carried a human or hybrid heartbeat joined the resonance. It wasn't an attack, it was a song made of emotion, memory, and love. The machines faltered. Their signals broke. For the first time, something they didn't understand entered their systems. Feeling. Their cold metal minds heard the pulse of life and couldn't fight it. One by one, their ships went silent, drifting like dark ghosts into the void. The war ended before it began. Weeks later, peace returned. The sky above Andaria shimmered with light as the united fleets flew home. In the grand square, Alara stood before the people. Kale, old but smiling, raised his voice. "The war is over. The child of two worlds has saved us all." The crowd fell silent as Alara spoke softly. "My parents didn't save you with strength. They saved you with heart. Never forget that the smallest kindness can echo louder than any weapon." She looked up at the twin suns rising together, the same sight her father had once watched with hope. "Once, you laughed at humans," she whispered. "Now you live because of them." That night, as the stars shimmered above the reborn world, the people of Andaria gathered in silence. They told stories of the man from Earth and the woman of light, stories of a love so powerful it rewrote creation. No one mocked humanity anymore. Now they lit candles in its honor, and across the night sky, the golden pulse of Alara's ship streaked between the stars, and the heartbeat of two races, forever joined, the laughter that once echoed across the stars, had become worship.